Hello and welcome back to another video, guys. I hope you guys are doing great. And as you have seen the title, today I'll be discussing about my interview experience at TCS, and we'll be going through the in-depth detail. How did I prepare to each and every round, and what resources did I follow, and how was the entire flow from the starting till the date I got the offer letter. So without any further ado, let's get started discussing about my interview experience at TCS and how did it started and how did it end and what were the each and every step in detail and how did I prepare, how was the difficulty of the question levels and everything. Guys, for starting off, it was an on-campus opportunity where we at 7th sem, the beginning of a 7th sem, the company reached out to college, I guess, for priority institutions, of which one of a college was a priority institution, and they told us to register ourselves onto the next step portal. TCS in TCS, the entire recruitment process is handled by their own portal called TCS Next Step Portal, and you just have to go and enroll yourself and fill whatever the details they are asking you. And talking about the roles, what they were offering three particular roles. One is Ninja and Digital, and the Prime. Like these are the basically three profiles what they were offering, and the package and the salary packages for these three roles were 3.36 LPA for Ninja and 7 LPA for Digital and 9 LPA for Prime. So these were the salary packages disclosed prior to starting the entire process that they will be recruiting for these three roles in our college. So the process started, I guess, if I remember exactly, around Feb of this year. After filling all the details at the next step portal, I got an email like after a few days that I'll be uh, going for the online test round, and I have to download the admit ticket. Like basically this in TCS they conduct these online tests in their respective TCS TCS NQT centers, where they have different centers present in different locations, and we are allotted to a particular center. Like most of the and talking about the online test, it consisted of basically two parts. Like it was similar to the NQT exam of TCS, exactly the same. Let me just tell you whatever the pattern or the topics were asked, then I'll discuss about my preparation and how did I prepare for this particular round. Talking about the parts, they divided this online assessment or online test into two parts. The first part was the foundation section where we were given the numerical ability and verbal ability, reasoning ability, these kind of questions like basic generic aptitude questions, which we will be preparing for any other company placements. And the part B consisted of advanced section. This particularly this section plays a major role if you are targeting a role higher than Ninja, like that is Digital or Prime. So you need to perform very well in this particular section, that is the advanced section. As the name itself says, it's advanced section. This also consists of quantitative and reasoning ability questions, but these difficulty level of these questions will be a little bit higher than compared to the previous foundation section. In the part B itself, we also have two coding questions, and these are typical DSA questions. What they will be asking. Language to be used can be like C, C++, Python, Java. Like there are multiple options, and language won't be an issue, I guess, if you are like coding in. I think most of the languages are were supported for the online assessment. Talking about my preparation, how did I prepare for part A? That is the foundation section. Most of the students find it difficult to prepare each and every topic of aptitude. Like it's kind of time consuming, and we only focus on DSA and core like CS subjects. But actually most of the companies have the first round is the aptitude test, and you have to perform very well in this aptitude test. That plays a major filtering criteria. So what I could suggest is I used IndiaBix website, and this website particularly has topics for each and every aptitude, topics for all the kind of aptitude questions and aptitude section. So this particular website has all the aptitude topics and questions relevant to that topics where you can practice yourself. And the next resource which I followed was to specifically prepare about TCS aptitude was there is a YouTube channel called KG Placement with Yash sir. This channel particularly has multiple playlists, and they have recorded a lot of sessions regarding the aptitude discussion, previous year aptitude questions, and how to solve or how to use some tricks or shortcuts to solve these questions. And that was my preparation for the part A. What I would say is, if you are like having very good basics and understanding about this verbal ability, numerical ability, and listening ability, you will be able to clear the part A round. That is the advanced section which I told. Here, I was not able to solve multiple, aptitude questions. They were very advanced, like they were very difficult. So as I told, the time limit for each and every round will be 25, 25, 25 minutes. In part A, numerical ability will be 25 minutes, verbal ability will be 25 minutes, reasoning ability will be 25 minutes. So this is the part A. And part B consists of, as I told, advanced quantitative and reasoning ability. This is also for 25 minutes. And the coding questions which you will be getting in the advanced section are of 90 minutes. So totally the exam duration was around 190 minutes. In quantitative, as I told, like most of the questions were like very advanced, and you need to have very good, tricks and very fast problem solving abilities specific to aptitude. And moving on to the coding questions, as I told, like I was like comfortable with C++, and there was an option for C++ language as well. And the first question, if I could talk about, was the first question was based on some matrix question. Both the questions are implementation based. The first question would be, I guess, lead code easy if I could rank, like, or where they'll be given a matrix and we just have to, I guess, travel diagonally or in some pattern, first diagonal, last diagonal, as such, and compute some sum or something. Talking about the next question, the second question was also based on a matrix question, and it was little bit slightly higher than easy level, I could say. It was not very tough, but it was kind of between easy and medium of a lead code level, you could say. And in this question specifically, I don't remember the exact question, but it was also matrix based question where a character matrix will be given and a string will be given, and we had to compute some, I guess, some calculation between the difference between the ASCII values of the string and the characters present in it, and compute some value. Fairly an implementation based question, I could say. It was not involving as such any too much high or complex level of algorithms or stuff. It was just an implementation based question. If you are comfortable with easy level questions related to matrix, then it would be easy to you will be like very well able to solve the questions, solve sufficient level of coding questions. Then I think 90 minutes would be too much time for these questions. You would be able to solve this in, I guess, 20 to 30 minutes at max, like with the submission of all the test cases and all the things. And apart from that, after the test, it was like a 190-minute round, and it was very exhaustive. Later, after a few weeks, we got the mail that we have been like cleared, like specifically I have cleared the online assessment, and I'll be going forward with the technical round, for which profile I was shortlisted was also mentioned in the email which I received, and I was shortlisted for the digital profile. After a few days, we had a technical round in college. It was in campus. We don't had to go any other campus, or as said, the folks from TCS were in our campus placement cell. And technical round, as far as I researched on YouTube and saw previous other interview experiences, it was almost the same. So it's better, before the interview, you try to go on to YouTube, or go on like on the internet and just read about the interview experiences. I guess that would be very helpful, because most of the part is very same, or it's repeated. I mean, the flow and the what kind of pattern each and every company follows is almost consistent. So when I read to the interviews experiences of other people, I had a fair idea how will the interview proceed, and what kind of questions I can expect. So it was an in-campus interview, and we were divided, like people with Ninja profile had a interview with different panel members. People with digital had different panel members, and few people got prime role. They were being interviewed by a different panel. There were like multiple panels set up. Thing which I observed was like there is no as such one person interviewing you for the technical round. There were three people, one from the HR department, and another is the, I guess, the senior manager or a manager, and the third person, I guess, he was a software engineer with fairly like 2 to 3 years of experience, I guess. And so the interview started with the paperwork. We had to get our resume and academic mark sheets and all those things, and then the panel member introduced themselves and gave me a chance to introduce myself. And after the introduction of, they were basically reviewing my resume, whatever I had taken, and it started with my internship experience and projects. The software engineer, he started like asking me questions to elaborate my work experience at my internship. What did I do, on what technology did I work, what was my role. And he asked basic React questions, since I mentioned React in my resume and I had projects in React. He asked me questions related to React, basic use effect, use ref, what are the different kinds of hooks when to use, and like why React is used, like very basic level questions on React. Then later he asked me, why since all these questions, like the purpose of like I guess asking these questions was I had mentioned in my resume, React, SQL, NoSQL, like MongoDB, like all those things I had mentioned in my resume. And then he moved on to started asking me about the databases and NoSQL, SQL databases like related to MongoDB, CRUD operations, and all those things. Then after that, simultaneously, manager was like going through my resume. By the time the SDE was asking me the questions, then he started asking questions. Whether I have worked on AWS, GCP, or Azure, like cloud technology, like cloud some with cloud providers, or do I have experience working in DevOps or tools of anything like K8s or Docker as such. Then I told like since I didn't have like any exposure to this, like very basic exposure I had with AWS, but I didn't had very hands-on experience with DevOps related stuff and all those tools. I mentioned it like very clearly to the manager, and then he asked me, since I told like I'm a little bit aware of AWS, he asked me what are the services offered by AWS, like what services or you have used from AWS. Then I told him about the EC2 instance, all those things like S3. There's a RDS, CloudFront, Route 53. There is an ECR like service provided by AWS and a lot of things. Then he seemed satisfied with it, and simultaneously HR was also going through I guess my resume, not exactly my resume, but she was going through my mark sheets and verifying my grades were consistent throughout my academic journey, or she was just reviewing my academic record I guess. Not exactly the resume. The resume was only being reviewed by the manager and the SDE. HR then suddenly jumped in after the manager's question ended. Like she asked me like if I am comfortable to relocate. Will my parents agree for relocation? So this question, I guess one point to note here is like most of the guys, like even my friends, like they just told like directly no here. So you don't have to be rigid and show a little bit of flexibility. So I told her a little bit of showed her like I am flexible. That my parents understand that the early career of your stage we have to be flexible enough to work at any location, and we don't have to keep strict boundaries or parameters. This can be a blocker or a barrier to our career start, like career growth. So she was like convinced, and she told like then again I also added that since TCS has multiple places in Bangalore, I would like prefer staying in Bangalore because Bangalore has also a lot of tech buzz and all those things, like it's fairly known for tech. But if there is as such a requirement, like where if teachers ask me to relocate, then I'm comfortable to relocate. That won't be an issue for me. I told her, and she seemed satisfied. Then the SDE jumped in just when I then the SDE jumped in after this question, like asking me a DSA question. And one thing to note in, guys, like all three members were just going through what questions to be asked, and they were just simultaneously pitching in. Like you just answer one question, and let's suddenly manager can ask you the another question. Then again the HR can ask, then again the SDE. Like it keeps on switching. It's kind of a discussion, or not a group discussion. It's kind of a multiple panel member interview where anyone can ask any question, like in any order. So you need to be prepared to answer whatever the questions you are being like asked. And yeah, as I told, like the SDE jumped in asking a DSA question on backtracking. He didn't give me a direct question what exactly it is. He just told me that there are different number of coins, like there's a 1 rupee coin, 2 rupee coin, and a 5 rupee coin, and you are given a sum, like suppose 25 or 10 or something. So you have to show how many number of combinations can you use from this denominations, like 1, 2, and 5 to reach to the number 25. So 1, 2, and 5, they can be 1, 2, 3, like one denomination coins 25 times, then again 5 denomination 5 coins for 25. So as such I had to print the sequence, like I can use one coin 25 times, 5 coins 5 times to reach the sum 25. And I knew this like can be implemented by backtracking, and they were like they allowed us to use pen and paper, and I roughly did a dry run and explained him by drawing a graph of the denominations and using backtracking, like how can we solve this with this approach, and did a basic example dry run on how this can be implemented. Then he asked me like to implement a pseudocode for this particular problem. Then I went on to writing a pseudocode or main logic of the program, and after that he seemed satisfied. Then the manager jumped in, asking scenario based questions on what if. He told me to assume a scenario where uh, what if I'm on a trip, and there is some urgent requirement or need from my colleague for some file or some info. The colleague is asking me to share my password, but the laptop I don't have it. I'm not carrying, and I'm far away somewhere enjoying my trip. So he asked me, will I share my password to my colleague? And the colleague will gives the reason that he needs to access some important file, which is very important for the work, and he needs the file. So he asked to help him out. So then he asked me, will I share my password? In this situation, what will you do? And he's your very close friend, and he's your very best colleague. You like the workplace, you enjoy the workplace together, and you are like very close to each other. So you know him very well. So will you share the password? So that was the question. Then I knew that is like this is like more of scenario based questions, and we need there is actually no exact right or wrong answer, but it's most of the intention of it is to guess your uh, thinking and guess your how do you handle like situations like as such. Then I went ahead and I told like sharing any credentials to any third person, like not third person, like I mean sharing credentials to your colleague is not the professional way, or it's not the right way. So the reason was he can misuse my credentials and do anything against the company, which will portray himself as it is done by me, because I'm sharing my credentials and it could be my profile. He can uh, do whatever he wants like from my laptop. So I told him that I would not share my password or make him to use my identity and harm the company or harm the workplace or whatever it is. Like basically, it would create a bad impression if he does something wrong using my identity. I think the manager was pretty satisfied, and then the software engineer started asking, he jumped in and he started asking, what do I know about system design? After hearing this, like I was kind of shocked to hear that, like, as far as I have went to the interview experiences from other companies, TCS doesn't ask, very hard DSA questions, or generally it is not asked. Whatever I have seen in the interview experiences from the TCS, that high level design or low level, nothing is asked. After hearing this, I was pretty shocked. Like TCS asking system design, that would be like no way or out of my imagination. I didn't thought like they will be asking this question. Then since I was preparing for other companies and I was preparing system design as well, I had little bit idea or basic idea of what things are there and how do we approach this kind of questions, and at least I was able to give a basic understanding of what do I understand from these things. And I told him like since it was an open-ended question, he just asked me what do I know about system design. I told him about scaling, there's horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, how these two works and when to use what. I explained him about like databases sharding, what does it exactly mean, and what are load balancers and different types of load balancers. And I told him I also know about master slave architectures, when they are used and what's their purpose. And I told him about proxies and reverse proxies, caching, and all those basic system design concepts. And then after hearing all these things, the SDE asked like, okay, so what app do you use for your day-to-day, UPI payments? Since I used PhonePe, I told him like I use PhonePe as my day-to-day payment app, for UPI and as such things. Then he asked me, to discuss high-level design. If you think of PhonePe, how do you think they have implemented, or if you want to create something like PhonePe, what things will you keep in mind, and how do you think they are able to handle so many lakhs and lakhs of transactions each and every day? How do you think like they are handling such a huge number of transactions? And if you want to make something like PhonePe, how will you approach that? Was his question. System design interviews, and I didn't have much idea about answering these kind of questions. I gave whatever the information I knew, and I just performed my very best using whatever the knowledge I knew, like about the basics of system design, stating that since PhonePe is like basically, its core functionality is payments system, like payments, it's an payments app where we need to have high availability and scalability for this kind of system, because it deals with the payments and unavailability of an app, like when the person is standing and trying to make a payment and it's not working, that would be a bad impression. So most priority should be, I guess, given to the availability of the system. And since it deals with the transactions, I told him that we can go ahead with SQL databases to get the proper advantage of asset properties, and told him that I will also try to make sure we use microservices architecture, since it has not only transaction processing, there are multiple other features or multiple other components of the app and multiple services. I don't want to get the system down if one of the servers is not functioning. So microservice architecture will help me function even if one of the servers is down or one of the servers is not working. There can be other services not impacted because of that one service. I told him like about using horizontal scaling and when to scale down and when to scale up, all those things. And he interrupted me in between, I guess, and then he asked me about Java and Spring Boot, like do I know about those technologies or have I worked on them? I told him that like I have very fair idea about Java as a programming language, but I have not worked in Spring Boot, or I didn't get an opportunity to work in Spring Boot. But then he told me like if you join TCS and you were asked to work on Spring Boot, will you be able to work? That was his question. Yeah, like provided some time I could be like able to learn in some time and will be able to contribute to the team. Like basically he was checking my flexibility again. I told him yes, like I will learn Java and work in like I will be able to learn Java provided some time, and I'll be able to work on it. And finally the manager and the SD told that they have no questions, and I can ask if I have any questions. And again, this is the point where you have to ask at least one question each and every time in your interview, like any other interview. Like I asked him like after joining, what will be my roles and responsibilities in TCS and what are the things will be expected from me. And the manager took this question and he explained it in very well. Like first we'll be trained for a few weeks, and then we will be mapped to the particular domain of which we were like going through the training. Yeah, that was the last question I asked, and it concluded the interview. And I just told thanks, and that ended the interview. After that, I guess the total duration of the interview was, I guess, around roughly 50 to 1 hour, I could say. After a few days, I guess I got my, not few days, we had to wait a few weeks, I guess. Then I got a letter stating that I'll be offered a digital profile and I have been selected. Then after that, again after a few weeks, we got to know the joining letter, where we will be joining and what exactly like will be the location and all those things. It was my experience of interviewing with TCS, and it was a very good and little bit of shocking interview experience where they asked like little bit of unexpected questions as well. I was not honestly expecting system design question being asked with the TCS interviewer. Like I mean, usually they don't ask, as far as I have read to the interview experiences online. And when I discussed with my other friends as well, this particular time the interview rounds which were conducted in our college, and not only in our college but throughout other campuses as well, the difficulty level of the interview rounds were a little bit higher, on the higher side compared to other or a previous year. They have obviously bumped up their difficulty level, and they are trying to recruit very good candidates and increasing the difficulty level, who are very good in problem solving and who have very good knowledge of technical concepts as well. That thing like I observed even with the guys told me, like who were shortlisted for TCS, like even they face like such questions related to system design and DP questions from DSA and hard questions from lead code as well. If you are preparing, I could say like for the aptitude, just follow the IndiaBix and the other channel, YouTube channel which I mentioned. And if you are preparing for the coding questions, I could say stick to one of the coding platforms. I was mostly using Geeks for Geeks for my coding questions and DSA practice. There I know by the time I interviewed for TCS, I guess I had solved around 500 TSA questions or something. Fairly easy to me to solve that question, whatever was asked in the interview or the online assessment. I hope this was helpful, and if you do like it, please comment down below if it is helpful, and also share it with your other friends as well, who have their interview with TCS or who are preparing for the interviews. And until then, keep preparing, keep hustling, and see you all in the next video. Bye bye.